Republicans releasing the report on Benghazi as expected. It blasts the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton. Some accusing the GOP of looking more concerned about nailing Hillary than mourning the death of 4 Americans. Tonight we'll debate about the political debate. Then, as Donald Trump delivers an economic speech today, we look at how more and more Republicans are maybe not so crazy about their national standard bearer and also refusing to speak at the convention next month. Also, today, the end of a political era. It is primary day, and the race to replace Charlie Rangel starts in earnest. He is leaving Congress after 45 years. We'll look at that and the rest of the action. Evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Congressional Republicans finally released their findings about the Benghazi attack that killed 4 Americans. The 800-page report does not have a smoking gun, but it does provide some new details. Trey Gowdy, the House Republican who led the investigation into the 2012 attacks that killed 4 Americans, including U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens.
Nothing could have reached Benghazi because nothing was ever headed to Benghazi.
The report includes interviews with 80 new witnesses. It concludes that the Obama administration is to blame for what it says was a slow response.
Washington had access to real-time information, but that real-time information did not inform and instruct the decisions made in Washington.
It also focuses on the fact that the administration initially blamed the attack on an anti-Muslim video, some members taking specific aim at former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
Publicly telling the American people it was a video-inspired protest, privately telling the truth that it was a terrorist attack.
This is a Republican conspiracy theory in search of a conspiracy.
The Clinton campaign said this report, which took 2 years and cost $7 million, was politicizing the deaths of those 4 Americans. Democrats have long said its goal was to undermine the former Secretary of State's presidential bid.
This is a committee that has gone on longer than the 9/11 Commission, than the committee designated to look at Pearl Harbor, the assassination of President Kennedy, the Iran-Contra affair, and Watergate.
Now, Benghazi has been highly politicized for years since it involves Hillary Clinton. Not surprising. But the Zika virus, it's hard to play politics with that one. But Republicans have managed to do that. In the funding bill for Zika, the GOP added a provision to strip funding for Planned Parenthood. That made the bill DOA when it came to the Senate floor. It also puts politics certainly above public health. And the same deal with global warming. Republicans blocking the Pentagon's climate change plan that would enable the Defense Department to prepare for the damage done by a warming planet. Politics first, safety concerns second. Let's bring in our panel. I'm sure one of them doesn't like my findings there. Shelley Mayer, I'll let you guess who here. Not Shelley, Democratic Assemblywoman representing Yonkers. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. Richard St. Paul, ding, 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 attorney, Republican strategist, and former vice chair for the National Black Republican Association. And Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. Okay, listen, first off, we've been following these hearings. Did you take at the end of the day the findings that came out of the report, and nobody read the 800 pages or anything, I'm not pretending like I did myself, but where was the there? In that, what did I really learn after this? That, by the way, some of their conclusions they reached were contradictory to Republican intelligence investigations, Republican-led intelligence investigations into the same incident. It just seemed that, listen, I know it's an election year, but 4 people are dead. And it seemed like politics were the first priority, and getting down to the bottom of what happened was a clear and distant second.
Well, let's start with what you just said, your last statement. 4 people are dead, including an ambassador to the U.S., and nobody has been tried and convicted for that particular crime, first and foremost. Second, what the report does tell us is that not enough was done to protect the ambassador and the folks assigned from the State Department to Libya. Not enough was done. The response time, not enough was done to respond once they found out that the embassy was under attack. And 3, the Obama administration had been stonewalling this investigation. We had members we had the CIA and other agencies, including the State Department, not handing information over to the Congressional Investigation Panel. So we've learned a number of things in that report.
Well, I would just amplify that by saying that there were some systemic issues in Hillary Clinton's State Department, So there are going to be some accusations that she should have done more to staunch that. Nothing directly that seems to target Hillary Clinton. And I'll just add, and I don't agree with this argument, but the politicization of the entire thing, this happened during the 2012 election, like a couple of months before the election in 2012. Republicans have been claiming for 4 years now that that there was some sort of cover-up or the maneuvering by the Obama administration
even the findings
to
from the
protect
report.
the administration during the 2012 re-election. So
Well, even the
politics
findings
have
in
been
the
in this from
report
the
though,
beginning.
clearly said, and a lot of folks I think would like to say otherwise, but even the authors of this Republican report say that Hillary Clinton at no point personally denied additional security detail to Benghazi. Secondly, I must have missed it, but there were funding requests to increase the amount of security at actually embassies across the world, and that was denied, by the way, by a Republican-controlled Congress. My point is, if this was a search for the truth, it's very curious, both the timing, the language, and also some of the people making the arguments. Now we get to the Zika stuff. Part of your job is, obviously, you're one of many people in both the Assembly and the Senate to be the people's representatives in Albany. Mm-hmm. But your primary job is to protect the people in New York.
Correct.
To me, Zika funding doesn't say, well, who as a mosquito am I going to bite, a Republican or a Democrat today? How are we holding up funding? What does Planned Parenthood have to do with Zika?
I think it's really quite despicable when you put these poison pills in bills that are essential for public health and safety. Zika is something that concerns all people in the United States and frankly throughout much of the world. And we ought to have been at the forefront and spending the money where we need to, both internally, in my opinion, and bolstering activities elsewhere to ensure that there's less transmission to our country. The idea of making bills difficult to vote for because you put things in that have a political purpose at the end of the day, I think people are disgusted by that. I think in general, most people say, find a compromise that addresses the issue and get it done. We're tired of the politics, and this is the worst example of politics.
I know it cuts both ways, Dom, but this one, it's been going on for so long, the government bad. Anything government touches, it's the enemy. All I know is, heaven help somebody if Americans end up getting infected and dying from the Zika virus, and we didn't do the funding because people are trying to make political points about Planned Parenthood. We're now into July almost, okay? We've seen what's happened in other places. This is crazy to me.
It's crazy, Richard, but the only thing I disagree with what you said,
How
the
dare you.
clowns,
Yeah.
the clowns that put these poison pills in bills, to some in their districts, I dare say a majority, will go bravo. Tie up government. Don't spend our money. The Assemblywoman mentioned compromise, and I think you said disgusting. I agree. But compromise has become disgusting.
Okay, well,
when it
that's
comes
the
to our
perfect launching
politics.
point. I'm going to steal a line that we were talking about, and Andrew said it in this morning meeting. Okay, people don't like government. No surprise. I think that's a big part because some of the lawmakers that go there keep telling everybody how awful it is, okay? My question has always been, if government's so bad and the job of the House, the Senate, pick your chamber, is so reprehensible, then why are you going there as an elected official? Not you, I'm speaking more broadly, and specifically about the new Republican Party. If all you're going to do there is to gum up the works, because part of your job is you got to make sure FEMA's funded so when there's a flood, we rescue people and they don't drown. Part of your job is you got to make sure that if there is mosquitoes that are airborne that carry communicable diseases that could be life-threatening, that we protect the American public. It's not clever to say I'm anti-government, not the fun stuff that's not going to bankrupt this country. That's their job, isn't it?
Well,
you don't get to say, screw the government, when you are the government.
Let me do this. First, let me answer the last part first in terms of why people go to Washington. Obviously, they go because they believe they can make a change. Secondly, when you look at the congressional body as a whole, it has like a 13% approval rating, right? Meanwhile, each congressperson, or I should say each representative of the House or U.S. Senator has an approval rating in their district that they're pretty popular. It's when the body collectively gets together that they're very unpopular and why people distrust government. But individually, when they go there, they think that they're going to make a difference. But somehow when that body gets together, there is not a lot of compromise. The second thing I will say is, I agree with the Assemblywoman. the parties have to agree on some type of compromise. I think in this case, the Democrats blocked the Senate Democrats blocked the Zika bill from passing.
But why did they?
Well, whatever reason they did,
No,
there wasn't.
That's not fair.
No,
Why
no.
don't you have a clean bill on Zika?
But my
it's
point is-
simple. We're trying to fight the bugs, right? We're not talking about
But
Planned
it's not- but
Parenthood.
it's
What does
about-
a mosquito
we're
have to do
talking
with
about
Planned Parenthood?
compromise. So it's about the Senate Democrats negotiating a better bill.
No, Richard,
They're
I love
the ones
you.
that blocked
I
it.
love you.
They
You're
blocked
full of it. If we
Right?
wanted to deal with
can't argue
Zika,
with that.
no.
They
If
blocked
we
it.
wanted to deal with Zika, let's have a bill about Zika. What does Planned Parenthood
You
facilities?
can't say they blocked it.
They did block it.
honestly. I mean, they
did.
block it when the Republicans put something in that they know is irrelevant to the subject matter
And
and will cause dissension among
Understood.
the group.
But it's up to the Senate
But you
Democrats to
can't
negotiate a
start
better
by
bill.
But wait a second,
No.
but
That's
Richard,
what we're talking about,
what
compromise.
that begs is, the implication of that is, well, you Democrats want to stop the Zika bill, so you got to give us something to, cut off access or funding to Planned Parenthood. Wait a minute. I thought we all cared about Zika.
We do.
So
We-
who
and
are
we
you
also
guys to
care
attach something
about
to it? We'll
Then you
protect
do it
the
in a
people
separate
only
bill.
if you help
You
us
do
out.
that in a separate bill.
The
Do
Zika
that
bill,
in a
which
separate
also
bill.
was a compromise, which we didn't spoke about, aside from Planned Parenthood, talked about taking money from other programs and cutting programs, which Democrats agreed. It says, hey, we'll take money from other programs in the federal government to fund the Zika. They agreed to that. Now, if they weren't happy with the Planned Parenthood provisions, then they should
This is
negotiate
why
that
people.
rather than blocking
This is
it.
why, Richard, people hate government. It's because of this crap.
Well, that's the collective body. But
no,
remember,
no,
the House of Representatives for the
Most
state
of
U.S.
members,
Senator.
members of Congress who
They'd
are
be very
running for
popular.
re-election with Donald Trump at the top of their ticket, they're looking for some bona fides they can bring back to their district and show, look, I'm with you. And let's be honest, checkers is more popular than chess. It's easy to point to something and say, that's your problem, elect me and I'll take care of you right there, you're the problem, as opposed to explaining the nuances and the details of what actually needs to be done.
I think it's wrong to explain the narrative people hate government. I think that Bernie Sanders shows that in fact that's not correct. There is economic
Bernie's giving away government,
dissatisfaction,
so
but it's a very pro-government message. And that's why I don't think it's
Government
fair to
will provide.
describe it that way. I think this is the example of the worst kind of partisanship. I totally disagree with Richard. I think, to your point, when you can agree on a global thing, like fighting Zika, that's what you agree on. You want to fight about Planned Parenthood? We have a separate fight about that. They fight about it every year, every day. Go ahead, have your fight.
But you imagine,
this is not the
just
fight
guys,
to have.
I'll leave you this, can I go to break? Imagine if we attach, but
I
Richard,
understand.
imagine if we attach poison pills to 9/11 funding right after the attacks. We had a common enemy. Now it's about mosquitoes. Before then, it was about people who killed thousands of American lives. Imagine if somebody said, I'll only approve funding here if you decide, to increase taxes on the top 1%. Do you imagine if somebody did that? Nobody asked how we pay for that, by the way, right? But to kill mosquitoes, who again, okay, I'm with the mosquitoes. Anyway, when we come back, we will pivot again to politics, but to the campaign trail, this time with the Donald. He gave an economic speech at an aluminum factory in Pennsylvania today. He stayed on script for the most part, and he certainly had some trash talking in front of what looks like, well, at least to me, a pile of garbage. Now he's getting trashed by more and more people in his own party. We'll ask, though, if today could have been a turning point, good or bad, for his campaign.